Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Blast from the Past. Hell's aspiring angel takes on her demonic doppelganger in this action-packed, time-traveling E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Blast from the Past with a bonus E-Steam comic book, No Good Deed, in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Rapper Ice Cube returned to social media last night, stating that he is getting ready to rework his contract with Black America. And when I heard about Ice Cube's plans to rework his contract with Black America, I had to shake my head, because the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. And your Ice Cube is insane to sit there and continue to rework a contract with Black America and try to push an agenda without understanding the political process and how it works. And your Ice Cube clearly shows that he is a political novice, because him trying to push his contract with Black America without building a political base first just shows how inexperienced he is as related to the political process, and how he needs a political education himself before he pushes any political agenda. Now, in order to build an agenda, you need the support of all the members of a community, and your Ice Cube just doesn't understand that you need to go get that support first. Instead, he's thinking he can make the agenda and then sell it to the public. Unfortunately, he didn't see how badly that backfired on him this presidential cycle. Now, your Ice Cube went out here and decided to create his own political agenda, and then he decided to try to sell it to Joe Biden and Donald Trump before he sold it to Black America. And he wound up getting blown off by your Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who saw him as a political novice. However, your Donald Trump used your Ice Cube in order to further his own political campaign, and talked about how he had a relationship with Ice Cube and was using parts of his proposal as part of his platinum plan, and just practically used Ice Cube just as a photo op at Ice Cube's expense. And instead of your Ice Cube being embarrassed about being used and really learning a lesson from Donald Trump just playing him, your Ice Cube decides to double down, and in the face of all of the criticism he has received, he decides to double down and still try to talk about pushing this whole contract with Black America, not understanding that he is putting the cart before the horse. You don't try to sell an agenda to a politician without a political base, because that politician doesn't see anything that incentivizes them to support that agenda, because there are no voters there that will support them. So that's what your Ice Cube really does not understand about why his contract with Black America is not being taken seriously by the Black community or by politicians, because he doesn't understand how the political process works, and he doesn't understand that you have to go out here and build that political base, because when you build the political base that supports an agenda, you then have the numbers of people that form into a voting block. And when you form that voting block and you have millions of people behind you, then you have a large enough group that can go out here and be taken seriously by political power brokers, because political power brokers, they need to see the numbers when it comes down to people, and that's the thing that makes them interested in looking at somebody's agenda. One guy coming out here with a contract with Black America, no matter if he is a Joe Blow like myself or a celebrity like Ice Cube, that's someone no one is going to take seriously, because you're just one person, and that politician, when they see one person, they're not interested in hearing from that one person, because that one person with no money to back them and no base to back them is nobody they need to concern themselves with. As far as they're concerned, you're just one vote. But when they see a base coming at them with millions of dollars and even billions of dollars, and a 15 or 20 million people, then that politician understands that there is something for them to gain if they support that agenda, or something to lose if they alienate that group of people. So they have some skin in the game as related to that that group, and your Ice Cube just doesn't understand that when it comes down to the black community, you don't have the unity right now to talk about building any sort of support for your contract with Black America. So the first thing your Ice Cube really needs to go out here and do, as related to the heavy lifting David Carroll has talked about in many of his videos, is go out here and re-educate these black people as related to the political process. And that re-education is going to have to be done before you talk about any contract with Black America, because a lot of black people, they clearly are not understanding how the political process works, and that showed in the 2020 election, when over 80% of black women went out here and voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and 80% of black men voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And it's hard for any politician to take your Ice Cube's contract with Black America seriously when they clearly see the majority of black people voting straight down a Democratic ticket, and them voting for a candidate that had made no efforts to even care about anything that Ice Cube mentioned in his contract with Black America. Because your Joe Biden blew off your Ice Cube and then still went out here and black people voted for him. So why should anyone take Ice Cube's contract with Black America seriously at this point? And why should anyone take a reworked version of your Ice Cube's contract with Black America seriously when your Joe Biden knows that they're going to be able to get over 80% of those black female votes and 80% of those black male votes without even making a single effort to reach anyone in the black community? So that's something your Ice Cube really isn't thinking about as related to the political process. None of these politicians need to take his proposal seriously, because they already know they can get those votes without promising a single black person anything. And he's sitting here thinking, oh, it's just the proposal. No, there's a lot more work that your Ice Cube is going to have to do. He's going to have to roll up his sleeves, do this heavy lifting, and he's going to have to, one, learn this political process, and two, he's going to have to start working towards building some unity in the black community, because without unity, you don't have the glue that holds a political base together. And right now, the black community is not a united group. In fact, it is a splintered and fragmented group with black people in numerous factions, and these factions are warring against each other. We have your black men and black women who are right now in a gender war. And we also have subgroups also warring against each other, like your hoteps versus your pro-blacks versus your businessmen. We have no unity whatsoever in the black community. And with all of this fragmentation, there is no solid voting bloc of black people. And because there is no solid voting bloc of black people, you can't really go out here and talk about any sort of agenda until you can find a way to heal many of the wounds that are still festering and actually have gotten even more sore and gangrenous in the black community. And you have to start that healing process in order to get all of the black community on the same page. And once you get all of the black community on the same page, which is going to be a major struggle because you have so many black people who are just so emotional and so many that are taking things so personal, like your Ice Cube saw when he got the blowback from the contract with Black America and all of the misinformation about it regarding Donald Trump. There's going to be a lot of pain that has to be dealt with, a lot of feelings that are going to have to be dealt with, and this is going to be a very painful process trying to bring back that unity into the black community and trying to get black people together on the same page. So your Ice Cube is sitting there with his contract with Black America thinking that that's going to be what needs to be done. But no, a black agenda, again, has to be agreed on by all of the people in the black community. We cannot go by and have one celebrity come in with a contract with Black America and say, oh, this is an agenda we can get behind. No, an agenda is something that all the people get together and agree on, and they come together as a group and present to the politician that they pick, and then they vote for that politician and send them to Washington to implement the agenda they have set up. And when other politicians like your president see that there's unity, they then understand that they're not dealing with the community that of a handful of individuals. They are dealing with a voting bloc, and they need to take that voting bloc seriously. Unfortunately, most people don't take the black voting bloc seriously because it's easy to splinter and fragment the black voting bloc by dividing it based on all of these factions. Again, things like the gender war between black men and black women, the group that thinks that they are so-called elites, also known as the boule or the black bourgeoisie, these guys out here who call themselves hoteps, these pro-blacks, many of these groups, many of these people in Washington know, and even locally know, they can go out here and stir up some strife between these groups and splinter the black community and fragment the black vote to the point where all it thinks about is voting straight down the Democratic ticket and doesn't want to get anything in exchange for that vote. So your Ice Cube, again, he's talking about contract with Black America, not understanding the hard work that's going to need to be done as related to getting unity among black people, and the even harder work at getting black people to show the economic power of the black dollar. Because what also makes political process functional is people understanding the value of their dollar. And even though black people have $3.3 trillion in cash and credit, most black people are not black business owners. And because they're not black business owners, again, politicians don't take them seriously because they know that 97% of black dollars flow out of the black community, and those 97% of black dollars are not flipped over in the black community enough times to build any sort of economic power. And without that economic power, there is no incentive for anybody to even see them as a political force, because economic power creates political power. And the black dollar has, even though we have 3.3 trillion in cash and credit, we don't use our economic power to create political power. And again, this is why your Ice Cube is putting the cart before the horse, because like David Carroll has stated, we need political re-education of black people before we can start talking about agenda. Because when you have over 80% of people voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, even though they promised black people nothing and are right now pulling a swerve on all of your boule who were bootlicking to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They aren't even considering them for any sort of jobs in Washington. That shows why nobody should listen to Ice Cube right now, because we've got to get on the ground and start doing a lot more work. And again, that work is going to be very hard. And your Ice Cube, sadly, he has not learned how hard it is from the roastings he took from going on those panels with those black women. And he didn't understand that those women were being used to be able to discredit him. And the reason why they use those women is because they know that these beta black males will go out here and try to white knight for them and defend them. And that's all about tearing down your Ice Cube. But your Ice Cube, again, sadly, has not learned a single thing about the political process. He's sitting there talking about reworking a contract with Black America. But in my business law classes, in the second year of college I was there, the first thing that makes a contract is an agreement between two parties. That's the first core element of creating a contract, is a written agreement between those two parties. And right now, you don't have any agreement between Ice Cube and Black America. And that's the reason why nobody takes Ice Cube and his contract seriously, because they see that you cannot get any agreement between all of these factions in the black community towards any agenda, and you need that agreement first. And in order to have a contract, again, you need an agreement between two parties based on consideration and to be executed within a reasonable time. And again, these are the basic things I learned about contracts in business law when I was in college. And Ice Cube is not even anywhere near the first step, because again, you have no agreement between the black community and Ice Cube, and he doesn't understand that he's putting the cart before the horse with this contract, because in order to create that black agenda, again, you need that unity to form that agreement, and you need that unity in the black community, that where all the people come together and all the people contribute towards that agenda, and all of the people put their own parts into that agenda. Because once you have that unity among the black community, you then have that base to start working on an agenda. And once you have that base, and your base has come together and created and hammered out this agreement, and that's going to be a long and painful process that may take years, then you have the millions of people to create this voting block. And once you have that voting block of maybe 20, 25 million people, then you have a group that all of these politicians, state, local, and federal, will start taking seriously. Because when they start seeing voting blocks and voting blocks making demands and presenting an agenda that is backed not only by those numbers, but also backed by black dollars, then they start to see a group they can take seriously. And this, again, is going to be a long process, and I've said it before in the Road to a Black Agenda, that it is going to be a long process because we have a very, very, very sick black community that is filled with a lot of fragmentation and a lot of different groups, again, fighting each other and willing to stab another person in the back in order to get ahead. And all these wounds are going to take a long time to heal just by themselves. And then after you get these people to stop fighting each other, then you have to get them in a room and then get them to hammer out the framework for a black agenda. So this is a long process. And when you look at your Ice Cube, you see that he's just not ready to participate in this process. He's not ready for that kind of work because this kind of work, it is going to be, again, long road. And it's something that I know about that long road because one of the things I try to do with my positive black fiction is trying to get black people to read, and I know how hard that is. And even before that, in the year 2000, I was working on a plant with the Strive Job Readiness Workshop, working with homeless to help them implement resources and increase their resources to recruit homeless adults into the program. And I know from working with the homeless how hard it is to get people to go out here and try to talk about getting a job because they are so wedded to the social programs of welfare and Section 8 and food stamps, and they're willing to take the codependent programs because they're coming from addiction and abuse. And I know about the traumas that black people have gone through, so I know it's going to be a hard road trying to wean people off that codependent road and get them to start talking about the agenda and how agenda will benefit them, because they don't see how agenda benefits them because they're so used to getting whatever crumbs they get from the table from continuing to vote straight down one ticket. So this is a long road that black people are gonna be on. And again, it doesn't look like your Ice Cube is ready to head down that road, because instead of him remaining silent and just regrouping quietly, he's sitting here talking about reworking a contract with Black America when there is no agreement in Black America. You need an agreement between all of the people in the black community, or a good majority of the people in the community of Black America, before you push any agenda. And you need to create a base for a voting block before you go out here and start talking about an agenda and you start talking about any sort of political candidates. And you also need economic power to finance that. And black people right now, we're just not there yet. And it's going to be a long while before we're there yet. And that's something your Ice Cube just doesn't understand. And it's completely insane for him to sit there and talk about, oh, I'm creating a contract with Black America, when you don't even have the first part of a contract. You don't have an agreement between yourself and the party of the black community. So, as I see it, your Ice Cube, he just shows us how politically inept he is, and how he just really sadly has not learned a single thing from this whole process. And when you see that you're talking about contract with Black America and 80% of people vote for the other party, it shows that this individual just doesn't understand politics. And as I see it, he just needs to go somewhere and sit himself down. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you can head over to Amazon.com, where you can find many of my positive black books in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.